Elias Mercer stood alone on the wide crystal balcony of the celestial spire, or at least he believed he was alone. The air above the alien capital city shimmered with soft light from floating towers and drifting starships that moved like silent fish through a glowing sea. The sky was not black like Earth's night. It was deep violet, painted with slow-moving clouds of silver dust and distant suns that pulsed gently, as if the universe itself were breathing. Elias rested his hands on the smooth railing. It felt warm, almost alive, like the structure was listening to him. He had been on this world for 3 months, serving as Earth's first cultural envoy to the stellar court. Every day was filled with meetings, ceremonies, and endless careful words. Every smile had to be polite. Every sentence had to be safe. Out here on the balcony, he could finally breathe. He let out a long sigh and tilted his head toward the strange sky. "I don't think we belong here," he whispered. The words floated away into the glowing air. Elias gave a small, nervous laugh at himself. Talking to the stars was something he used to do as a child on his parents' farm back on Earth. He never thought he would be doing it again, standing above an alien city that stretched across the horizon like a dream made of light. "They all look at us like we're fragile," he continued softly, "like we're some little spark that might go out if the wind blows too hard." He closed his eyes and pictured home. Blue skies, rain on old rooftops, the smell of soil after a storm. The sound of music coming from open windows in the evening. "We're not perfect," he said. "We fight, we make mistakes, we mess things up all the time, but we try, we always try again." He opened his eyes and stared at a bright star near the edge of the sky. It glowed pale gold, steady and calm. "I'm scared they won't see what makes us special," he admitted. "Not our ships, not our tech, but the way we keep hoping even when things fall apart." Behind him, in the shadow of a tall silver column, Princess Seraphine stood completely still. She had come to the balcony to escape her own world of expectations. As heir to the Luminari throne, every step she took was watched. Every word she spoke was recorded. Her people valued calm, logic, and control above all else. Emotion was something they studied, not something they showed. She had not expected to hear a human voice in the quiet. At first, she thought she should leave. Listening to a private moment felt wrong. But then Elias spoke again, and something in his tone made her stay. Seraphine had studied humans. She had watched their history, their art, their strange, fast-changing culture, but this was different. This was not a speech. This was not diplomacy. This was honesty. Elias leaned forward on the railing. "We're small," he said. "Short lives, short history compared to all of you. Sometimes I wonder if we'll be forgotten in 100 years out here." He smiled sadly to himself. "But then I remember how a single person can change another person's life. How one idea can change a whole world. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what we're meant to do, not last forever. Just make things better while we're here." Seraphine felt something strange move inside her chest. Her people would call it a biological response, a reaction to sound patterns and emotional signals, but it felt like more than that. It felt like warmth. She stepped forward, her soft, glowing skin catching the light from the city below. "You believe that even something small can shape something vast," she said. Elias spun around, his heart jumping into his throat. "Oh," he froze when he saw who it was. He straightened quickly and bowed in the way he had been taught. "Your Highness, I didn't know anyone else was here. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have." Seraphine lifted a hand gently. "You were not speaking to me," she said. "You were speaking to the stars." Elias felt his face heat with embarrassment. "I didn't mean to be disrespectful," he said. "I just needed a quiet place." Seraphine walked closer, her movements slow and smooth, like light sliding across water. "My people do not often seek quiet," she said. "We seek understanding, control, balance." She looked out over the city, then back at him. "But I find myself here for the same reason you are." Elias hesitated, then relaxed a little. "That's surprising," he said. "Why?" she asked. He shrugged. "You seem like you already have everything figured out." Seraphine let out a soft sound that might have been a laugh. "That is what we allow others to believe." They stood side by side, both facing the sky. "What is rain like?" she asked suddenly. Elias blinked. "Rain." "Yes," she said. "I have seen recordings, water falling from the sky. Your people seem to find it meaningful." He smiled. "It's cold, sometimes annoying, sometimes beautiful. It makes everything smell clean, fresh, like the world is starting over for a moment." Seraphine considered this. "A planet that can begin again every day," she said. "That is interesting." Elias looked at her. Your world doesn't have weather like that? No, she replied. Our skies are controlled, predictable, stable. Sounds peaceful, he said. It is, she agreed, but it is also unchanged. They fell into a comfortable silence. Elias broke it first. Your people have been traveling the stars for thousands of years, he said. Doesn't it get boring? Seraphine tilted her head. Boring? Seeing everything. Knowing how things end before they begin. She thought for a moment. Perhaps, but we value certainty. You value possibility. I guess we do, Elias said. We like not knowing what's around the corner, even when it scares us. Seraphine studied him. His posture was relaxed now, his voice calm. He did not speak like a diplomat, he spoke like a person. Your species is young, she said, yet you act as if time is precious. It is, Elias replied, because we don't have much of it. Seraphine felt that strange warmth again. Does that make every moment brighter? She asked. Sometimes, he said. Sometimes it just makes the bad moments hurt more, but it also makes the good ones matter more. The city lights below them shifted, changing color in a slow, graceful pattern. Distant music floated up from a nearby plaza, soft and unfamiliar. Seraphine looked at Elias. When you spoke earlier, she said, you said your people are afraid of not being enough. He nodded. Yeah. Enough for whom? She asked. He thought about it. For the galaxy, I guess. For history, for ourselves. Seraphine placed her hand lightly on the railing. My people once believed we were already everything we needed to be. And now? Elias asked. And now, she said, I am not so sure. He smiled gently. That's how it starts. She turned to him. What starts? Change. The word hung between them. Seraphine had spent her life preserving traditions, protecting a perfect system built long before she was born. Yet here she was, standing with a human who spoke of mistakes and rebuilding like it was something beautiful. Would you show me your world one day? She asked. Elias looked surprised. You mean Earth? Yes, she said. Not through records, not through reports, through your eyes. His smile widened. I'd like that. Above them, the pale gold star pulsed softly like it was listening. Neither of them noticed the small, silent recording drone drifting at the edge of the balcony, its light blinking as it captured every word. The galaxy, unknown to them both, was about to hear a human confession meant only for the stars. Morning on the luminary homeworld did not arrive with sunlight. It arrived with sound. Soft tones moved through the air like invisible waves, gentle and slow, changing in pitch as the city systems woke up. Towers of glass and light shimmered, their surfaces adjusting to the rhythm of the sky. The clouds above shifted in perfect patterns, guided by unseen machines that kept the world calm, steady, and predictable. Princess Seraphine stood near a tall window in her private chamber, looking out over the city. She had not slept. Her mind kept returning to the balcony. To the human's quiet voice. To the strange way his words had settled inside her, like seeds finding soil they did not expect. Her people believed emotions were reactions to be managed, not experiences to be explored. Yet she felt something new every time she remembered the way Elias had spoken about rain, about hope, about moments that mattered because they did not last forever. A soft chime sounded behind her. Enter, she said. The door slid open, and her advisor, Lorith, stepped inside. His glowing skin held a faint blue tone, a sign of calm focus. You were not present at the dawn session, he said gently. I know, Seraphine replied. This is unusual for you. She turned to face him. Is it wrong to be unusual? Lorith paused. It is unexpected. Seraphine looked back out at the city. I met the human envoy last night. I am aware, Lorith said. Security noted your presence on the upper balcony. Did they record our conversation? She asked. They recorded sound patterns, he replied. They do not yet understand human language well enough to process it fully. Seraphine felt both relief and disappointment. He was not speaking as an envoy, she said. He was speaking as himself. Lorith tilted his head. And what is the difference? She struggled to answer. One speaks for a world, the other speaks for a heart. Lorith considered this. Your Highness, the Stellar Court meets again today. Humanity's status will be reviewed. Seraphine turned sharply. Reviewed how? The younger species are often evaluated for long-term influence, he said. Some council members believe humans will fade without leaving a lasting mark. Seraphine felt that strange warmth again, but now it carried something sharper. They are wrong, she said. Lorith looked at her with mild surprise. Would you like to attend the session? He asked. It is not required. I will be there, she replied. Across the city, Elias sat at a small table in the human embassy wing, staring at a cup of steaming tea that had long gone cold. He had not slept either. He kept replaying the moment Seraphine had stepped out of the shadows, the way she had listened, the way she had asked about rain like it was a story from a distant dream. A soft knock came at his door. "Come in," he said. Mara, his assistant, stepped inside, holding a tablet. "You look like you stayed up all night," she said. "Is it that obvious?" Elias asked. She smiled. "You have a meeting with the Stellar Court in 2 hours. They're reviewing humanity's role again." "Again," he repeated. "They do that a lot," she said. "Ancient species like to measure things." Elias leaned back in his chair. "I just hope they see more than our technology." Mara studied him. "Something happened last night, didn't it?" He hesitated. "I talked to someone." "Anyone important?" He thought of glowing skin, curious eyes, and a voice that sounded like light moving across water. "Yeah," he said softly. "I think so." The stellar court chamber was vast and open, shaped like a circle so wide Elias couldn't see the far edge clearly. Beings of many forms and colors filled the space, some floating, some standing, some resting on platforms of light. At the center stood a simple platform where Elias was asked to wait. Seraphine entered from a high walkway, her presence drawing quiet attention. She took her place among the Luminari delegation, her face calm, her posture perfect. But her eyes found Elias. He noticed her too, and his nervousness eased just a little. A deep, layered voice filled the chamber. "Today we discuss the future role of the human species within the shared systems of the galaxy." Elias felt his hands tighten at his sides. One by one, representatives spoke. Some praised humanity's creativity, others questioned their stability. A few wondered aloud if such a fast-changing species could be trusted with long-term influence. Seraphine listened carefully. Then she stood. The chamber quieted. "My people have traveled the stars for longer than recorded memory," she said. "We have preserved worlds, systems, and cultures. We value what lasts." She paused. "Last night I heard something that does not last." Murmurs rippled through the court. "I heard a human speak of fear, hope, failure, and rebuilding," she continued. "I heard a species that does not cling to perfection but reaches for possibility." She turned slightly, her gaze resting on Elias. "Perhaps it is not those who endure the longest who shape the galaxy," she said. "Perhaps it is those who remind us how to grow." The chamber fell silent. Elias felt his chest tighten. He had not expected this. He had not known anyone else had heard his words. A representative from a tall, crystalline species spoke. "Are you suggesting emotional expression as a form of influence?" "I am suggesting," Seraphine replied, "that inspiration is a form of power." The court considered this. The session ended without a final decision, but the tone had shifted. Elias could feel it. Later, in a quiet garden filled with glowing plants that floated just above the ground, Elias and Seraphine met again. "I didn't know you heard all of that," he said. "I did," she replied, "and I shared it." He looked surprised, then thoughtful. "Are you in trouble?" "Not yet," she said, "but it may come." "Why do it then?" he asked. She looked at a small floating flower drifting past. "Because some things should be heard." They walked slowly along a path of soft light. "My people believe influence comes from control," she said. "From guiding systems, shaping outcomes." "And now?" Elias asked. "And now I wonder if it can come from something as simple as a story," he smiled. "Humans love stories." "Why?" she asked. "Because they let us live more than one life," he said. "They remind us we're not alone." Seraphine stopped walking. "That is what I felt last night," she said. "Not alone." They stood facing each other, the air between them quiet but full. A soft glow moved across the garden as the artificial sky shifted colors. "What will happen to my words now?" Elias asked. "They will travel," Seraphine replied. "Through the court, through records, through minds that have not felt something new in a very long time." "That's a little scary," he said. She nodded. "Change often is." Above them, the sky brightened, not with sun, but with a wave of light that moved from horizon to horizon. Somewhere in the vast network of the galaxy, the first translations of a human's quiet balcony confession began to spread. And for the first time in many centuries, ancient civilizations paused their calculations and listened, not to data, not to predictions, but to the voice of a species that dared to hope out loud. The first world to receive the recording was a quiet one. It was a planet covered in wide silver plains and slow-moving rivers that reflected the sky like mirrors. The people there were called the Viral, tall beings with skin like smooth stone and eyes that glowed softly in the dark. They were known across the galaxy for their deep thinking and careful choices. Nothing changed on their world without years of discussion. In a small chamber filled with floating lights, a group of viral scholars gathered around a glowing screen. On it, the image of Elias Mercer appeared, standing on the balcony under a strange sky. They listened. They heard his voice speak of rain, of short lives, of trying again after failure. They heard him admit fear not as a weakness, but as a reason to keep moving forward. When the recording ended, the chamber stayed silent for a long time. One of the scholars finally spoke. "He does not sound like a leader." Another replied, "No, he sounds like a traveler." On another world, far away, the recording reached a city built inside a ring of floating mountains. The people there, the Orashi, lived in constant motion. Their cities moved, their homes changed places, and their culture valued speed and progress above all else. They gathered in a public hall to hear the humans' words. At first, many of them grew restless. The recording was slow, quiet. There were no bold claims or grand plans. But as Elias spoke about children looking at the sky and dreaming of what they might become, the noise in the hall faded. A young Orashi child tugged on her parent's arm. "Why does he sound like he's talking to me?" she asked. Her parent did not have an answer. Across the galaxy, on a water world where cities floated on endless blue seas, the recording played in a research station. The scientists there had studied stars and storms for centuries. They understood the power of nature better than most. When Elias spoke of building things that failed and building them again, one of the oldest scientists smiled. "That," he said, "is how oceans are made." The words traveled faster than anyone expected, not as an official message, not as a command, but as a story. On the Luminary homeworld, Seraphine stood in a quiet archive chamber, watching the network display light up with new signals. Each one represented a world that had accessed the recording. Lorith stood beside her. "It is spreading," he said. "Yes," she replied. "Some in the court are concerned," he added. "They believe this may shift cultural balance." Seraphine turned to him. "Is balance always meant to stay the same?" Lorith did not answer right away. In the human embassy, Elias sat with Mara, watching updates scroll across a screen. "They're translating it into dozens of languages," she said. "Some species are even sharing it in schools and public forums." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't plan any of this. I was just talking." Mara smiled. "That's usually how the biggest things start." Later that day, Elias was invited to a small gathering, not in the grand court chamber, but in a simple meeting hall. Representatives from a few nearby systems had asked to meet him, not as an envoy, but as a person. The room was warm and softly lit. Chairs of many shapes and sizes formed a loose circle. Elias felt nervous as he took his seat. A being with skin like shifting clouds spoke first. "When you spoke of your short lives, you did not sound afraid of ending," it said. "You sounded afraid of not beginning enough. Why?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because every day feels like a chance," he said. "A chance to do something small that might mean something to someone else." Another representative, small and round, floating just above the floor, asked, "Do all humans think this way?" He smiled. "No. Some of us don't think about it at all. Some of us think about it too much. But I think, deep down, most of us want to leave things a little better than we found them." The group grew quiet. Seraphine watched from the doorway, her expression calm but her mind full. Later, as the gathering ended, she joined Elias in a hallway lined with glowing patterns that moved slowly along the walls. "They are listening to you," she said. "I don't know why," he replied. "Because you are not trying to lead them," she said. "You are inviting them." They walked together in silence for a while. "Do you ever wish your people were like mine?" Elias asked. "Stable, long-lived, certain." Seraphine considered this. "Sometimes, do you ever wish your people were like mine?" he thought. "Sometimes. But then I think about how boring my life would be if everything was already decided." She let out a soft, thoughtful sound. On a distant world covered in forests of glowing trees, a group of young beings sat around a fire made of gentle blue light. A teacher played the recording of Elias' voice. One of the students raised a hand. "Why does he talk about mistakes like they are good?" The teacher smiled. "Because without them, he says, there is nothing to learn from." The student looked into the fire. "I want to make a mistake someday," they said. The galaxy was changing in small, quiet ways, not with new laws or grand announcements, but with questions. On the Luminary world, a group of young scholars began studying human art instead of ancient star maps. On the Orashi worlds, engineers started naming their projects instead of labeling them with numbers. On the water planet, children began telling stories about stars instead of storms. Seraphine received reports every day. Some elders of the court were uneasy. "This is cultural drift," one said. "It will disrupt long-held systems," Seraphine replied, "or it will remind them why those systems were built in the first place." One evening, she and Elias returned to the balcony where it had all begun. The sky was the same deep violet. The city below still glowed like a field of fallen stars. "I never thought my words would go this far," Elias said. Seraphine rested her hands on the railing just as he had that first night. "My people once believed the galaxy was a machine," she said. "Perfect, predictable." "And now," he asked. "And now," she said, "I think it may be more like a garden," he smiled. "Messy, growing, full of surprises." "Yes," she said. They watched a line of starships move slowly across the sky. "Do you think it will last?" Elias asked. "This feeling. This attention." Seraphine looked at him. "Nothing lasts forever," she said, "but some things leave echoes." Far away, on a world where the sun rose in 3 colors at once, a child looked up at the sky and asked their parent what it meant to hope. The parent did not know how to answer, but they tried. And in that small moment, the human's quiet confession continued its journey, not as a message of power, but as a reminder that even the youngest voice in the galaxy could teach the oldest stars how to listen. The stellar court had not called a full gathering in over 100. Cycles. When the message spread across the galaxy, worlds paused. Ships adjusted their paths. Cities slowed their rhythms. Something important was about to happen, and no one quite knew what it would be. Elias stood in the human embassy, looking at the notice glowing on his wall screen. His name was written in soft blue light beneath the title of the session. Mara leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "You look like you're about to step into a storm." Elias gave a small smile. "Feels like it too." "Whatever happens," she said, "you didn't plan this. You didn't push it, you just spoke." He nodded. "I just hope speaking is still enough." On the other side of the city, Seraphine stood in a chamber filled with quiet light. Lorith was with her, as he always was before moments of importance. "The elders are divided," he said. "Some believe the galaxy is drifting, others believe it is finally moving again." Seraphine adjusted the simple band of light around her wrist, a symbol of her role as heir. "What do you believe?" she asked. Lorith hesitated. "I believe I hear more questions in the streets than I used to," Seraphine smiled. "So do I." The court chamber was fuller than Elias had ever seen it. Beings of every shape and form filled the wide circle. Some floated in the air like drifting clouds. Others stood tall and still like living towers, lights from 100 worlds reflected across smooth floors and glowing walls. Elias took his place at the center. Seraphine stood among her people, but she was not looking at them. She was looking at him. A deep voice filled the space. "We gather not to judge a species," it said, "but to recognize a change." A ripple of quiet moved through the chamber. "For many cycles, the galaxy has measured progress in distance traveled, systems controlled, and knowledge stored," the voice continued. "Yet in recent time, another measure has appeared." A tall figure stepped forward, its surface reflecting stars like a mirror. "We have heard the words of a human," it said. "Not as a command, not as a plan, but as a reflection." Elias felt his chest tighten. World after world had sent messages to the court, not reports, not demands, but stories of children asking new questions, of elders remembering old dreams, of systems being improved not because they had to be, but because someone believed they could be better. Seraphine stepped forward. "My people once believed we had reached the highest point of our path," she said. "That all that remained was to protect what we had built." She looked around the chamber. "But a young species reminded us that paths do not end at peaks. They continue forward even if the way is uncertain." The court was silent. Elias swallowed. The deep voice spoke again. "Elias Mercer of Earth, you did not come here to lead, yet you have been followed. Why?" Elias took a breath. He did not think about politics or influence or history. He thought about rain. "I think," he said slowly, "people are tired of being told what they are. They like being reminded of what they can become." A soft murmur moved through the room. He continued. "Humans don't have much time, we know that, so we try things, we fail, we try again. Sometimes we make things worse, sometimes we make them better, but we keep going." He looked up at the many faces, eyes, and forms watching him. "We don't want to be the strongest or the oldest," he said. "We just want to matter to someone somewhere." The silence that followed was not empty. It was full. Finally, the voice spoke. "The Stellar Court recognizes humanity as a cultural catalyst," it said. "A species whose presence encourages reflection, growth, and renewal among others." Elias did not fully understand the words, but he felt the weight of them. Seraphine felt it too. Later, the chamber slowly emptied. Groups gathered in quiet conversations. Some looked thoughtful, some looked uncertain, some looked hopeful. Elias found himself standing alone near the edge of the wide floor, staring at the distant ceiling that looked like a sky filled with stars. Seraphine approached him. "You did it," she said. "I didn't do anything," he replied. "I just talked," she smiled. Sometimes that is the most powerful thing. They walked together out of the chamber into a long hallway filled with soft light and gentle echoes. "What happens now?" Elias asked. "Now," she said, "humanity will be invited to cultural exchanges, not just political ones. Schools, art halls, shared projects. Your people will not only build with us, they will dream with us." He let out a slow breath. "That sounds big." "It is," she said, "and small. It will happen in little rooms, quiet talks, and simple moments, like the one on the balcony." They reached a garden where light flowers drifted through the air like slow, glowing snow. "Do you ever miss being alone up there?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "but I also like what it became." Across the galaxy, the change began to take shape. On the silver plains of the viral world, a new school opened. Not for logic or history, but for stories. Beings gathered to share moments from their lives, not just data from their studies. On the moving cities of the Orashi, a great wall was built. Not to protect or divide, but to display art from 100 worlds, including paintings from Earth made by children who had never seen the stars in person. On the water world, scientists and poets began working together, naming new discoveries after feelings instead of numbers. And on Earth, children in small towns and big cities watched the sky with new wonder, knowing that somewhere out there, the galaxy was listening to them too. One evening, Elias and Seraphine returned to the balcony. The sky was calm, filled with slow-moving light and distant suns. "I used to think the stars were just far away," Elias said. "Now they feel closer." Seraphine rested her hands on the warm railing. "My people once believed the stars were something to reach," she said. "Now I think they are something to share." They stood quietly. "Will you come to Earth someday?" Elias asked. She nodded. "I want to feel rain." He laughed softly. "We'll make sure you get a good storm." Far below, a group of young luminary children ran through a plaza, chasing floating lights. One of them stopped and looked up at the sky. "Do you think someone out there is thinking about us?" the child asked. An elder nearby smiled. "I think they are." The galaxy did not change in a single moment. It changed in classrooms where questions were encouraged, in workshops where failure was not feared, in homes where stories from distant worlds were told at the end of long days. Humanity did not become the strongest species among the stars. They became something else. They became the ones who reminded everyone that growth did not come from holding on, but from reaching out. On the balcony, under a sky that no longer felt so distant, a human and a princess watched the universe move slowly around them. And somewhere in the quiet space between stars, the echo of a simple confession continued to travel, not as a signal of power, but as a gentle spark, lighting small fires of hope in worlds that had almost forgotten how to dream.